Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, this show, this is our 90th show of Bridging Heaven and Earth, and it's being shot in Santa Barbara, California on October 29th, 1999. We're coming into the new millennium. I don't know how many days left, just a couple of months. And during this week, you know, that incident happened with that American golfer where he went up in a plane and he had an intention, he had a plan to land in a few hours and to play in a golf tournament. And something happened that didn't allow that to transpire. And what ends up happening is that he flies, whether he was alive or dead during that whole period. Payne Stewart ended up crashing in an empty field in North Dakota with an Air Force escort. And is that not possible for any of us when we have a plan or an intention to do something today, tomorrow, the next day? And in my life, I walked out this morning, and when I went to the car, we were having a sound check for the show tonight. And I was coming here, and I had this funny smell, and I didn't think anything of it, and I didn't know what it was. And then when I came home after the sound check, I smelled it again. I said, well, I'm going to be here for a few hours. I had to do a lot of stuff to, you know, get ready for the show that we're doing now. And I called up the gas company. I said, could you send somebody out? I'm not sure, but, you know, there's a funny smell here. And they sent somebody out, and sure enough, there was, you know, a pipe that had cracked or something, and there was a gas leak. So, I mean, you know, here it is. And, you know, I had the intention to do the 90th show. We were all excited, and, you know, we had wonderful guests coming in. And then, you know, a car backfires or someone lights a candle. And not only is there no house anymore, but there's no me anymore. So all the plans we had can be extinguished in just no time at all. So that's why it's important that each breath we do have, each experience, each day we do have, to bring that love, to bring that light into it, to tell those people who you love that you do love them, to treat each other as we'd want to be treated. None of us knows how long our contract here is on earth. And so when we're here, what is our purpose here? It's to experience love, and share love, and manifest love, and manifest that experience. Now, and then the question is, throughout history, well, how can we do that? And there are thousands of tools and techniques, but whatever the tool and technique is, it's time that we came upon it. It's time that we really recognized and really came into the experience of that love, of that oneness, of that healing, where we all are experiencing the connection between us all. And tonight we have guests who are healers in their own way, who are spiritual teachers in their own way. We have with us Eric Scott Pearl, who's a spiritual teacher and a healer. An extraordinary story. He had a successful chiropractic practice, however you say this, since 1981. And then in 1993, an extraordinary events seemed to be happening to him. His patients seemed to feel that he was touching them when he wasn't even touching them. They felt his hands without him actually touching them. And then, in that same period, he started to get what people call the stigmata effect, where your hands start bleeding and blisters form. And since that time, since that period in 1993, his patients have been reporting just incredibly miraculous cures from AIDS, from, you know, all the known horrendous diseases. And these have been documented in numerous books. He's been on many television shows discussing this, and we're really honored to have, you know, Eric with us tonight, and I'm sure we'll get into each of these different things. And then we have an old friend who's been on the show probably as much as anybody, Marilyn, who's an extraordinary singer and songwriter, and she has 2 albums out that, you know, we've played many of the songs from on the shows she's been on, Listen to Your Heart and Cause to Celebrate. And tonight she's going to sing some new numbers that are going to be on her new album that she's working on right now. So we're extraordinarily delighted and grateful and honored to be with Eric and Marilyn tonight. So as we normally do at this time, please join me in a short meditation, and then we'll come into Marilyn's first set, and then Eric will be with us, and I think it's going to be an extraordinary show. So please join us. Now's the time to have the experience of love. Now's the time to find your way into the truth, into that oneness that you really are. So please join me in a meditation.
sit.
Wow, thank you. So please settle in. There's an extraordinary 58 or so minutes available coming up. So try to take advantage of it. We're going to start tonight's show with Marilyn doing Body of Light. She wrote it with Joe Barnett, and it's going to be performed by our old loving friend Marilyn. So whenever you guys are ready, Marilyn.
You are a body of light. That is the way God sees you. Sacred symbols and colors. You're a beautiful form. And in your body of light, you can move through matter, conquer ego's illusion. Remember who you are. Oh, just imagine shining with Christ's radiance, shining with Christ's radiance, with our hearts all aglow. And if you feel it, close your eyes and feel it. Inner eyes will open, and we'll see who you are. You are a body of light, and it's your source of power. Connects to one another, connects to all that is. You are a body of light, and you must learn to use it to transmute the darkness and to create with God. Oh, just imagine shining with Christ's radiance, shining with Christ's radiance, with our hearts all aglow. And if you feel it, close your eyes and feel it, and your eyes will open. As above, so below. As above, so below. We are a body of light. That is the way God made us. Didn't make the chaos, didn't make the pain. We are a body of light, and we will move it upward. Move it always upward into the mind of God. Oh, just imagine shining with Christ's radiance, shining with Christ's radiance, with our hearts all aglow. And if you feel it, close your eyes and feel it. Inner eyes will open. Going home, going home, going home, going home, going home, going home. We're going home.
Hi, well, thank you, Marilyn. That was fantastic. So we're on the set with Eric. Welcome, Eric. Thanks for coming. So why don't you tell the story about, you had this, say that you had a chiropractic practice for like 12 years. Everything was going along.
I gotta ask you, does it smell like gas in here?
No, and it smelled like gas in my driveway, I'll tell you that. If it smelled like gas, we would be taking other procedures.
Good.
Okay, so you had this practice, and then all of a sudden, would you say it was all of a sudden something began to happen, or?
It was all of a sudden, in a sense, of following the process. I'll try and do it this way. I had practiced, I've had my license for a little over 18 years. In my 12th year of practice, I had gone through a couple of life changes. I ended a 6-year relationship, which I had intended to be a lifetime relationship. That left me a little shaky on my feet, I mean physically shaky on my feet. I ended up turning over my entire office staff simultaneously and hiring a couple of characters for me. One in particular, who it was a love-hate relationship. I kind of loved her, the patients hated her, so she wasn't long to stay with us. But one day she decided that I needed a little break. She dragged me down to the beach and wandered off and came back a little while later and said, "Oh, you got to get your cards read. And there's this woman over here, she's going to read your cards," and I don't have any problem with getting my cards read, but I'd like to go to someone who comes with a recommendation in hand, not a woman who brings a lounge chair and a folding table and tries to flag people down on their way to have a good time. But I let her talk me into it, and I got a little reading, none of which I really recall, and didn't have any impact. What did was, at the end of the session, she said to me, being a healer, which I took to mean being a chiropractor, "There's this work that I do," she explained, "and you need to have it done." And she went into explaining it. And the essence of it was the meridian lines, with which we're all pretty familiar around our body, acupuncturists use and follow the maps and such. At one point, according to her, had tied us in and connected us to these ley lines that encircle the planet and cross the areas of the sacred cities such as Machu Picchu and Sedona, and I know there are more and I can never remember them. And then they connect out and they tie us into the other stars and planets, and from what I'm understanding, the simultaneous planes of existence that are all in between just space. And she did this work that would reconnect us, and she thought that I should have it done, and I will admit it sounded interesting. I mean, it does. It does sound interesting, doesn't it? So I asked the fatal question, how much? She said $333, and I said no, thank you, because I already had visions of my face being flashed on, on multiple news stations around the country. Chiropractic doctors suckered in to gypsy plan and has to pay $50 or $150 a month. She should only burn candles for my protection. I saw the whole thing, and I didn't want to be associated with it. So I thanked her very much, and as I was leaving, she said, "Well, you can read about this concept in a book called The Keys of Enoch." And it was, she gave me a chapter, 317, and I thanked her very much and went on my way feeling saved from a debt of $333. I did continue to think about this a lot, and after a while I found myself picking up the book and trying to skim through it. Have you ever seen that book?
Very thick.
All right, yeah.
I mean, not thick in terms of pages.
Yes,
I mean, like each page is like,
each word comes out, and you can't understand it. You feel your brain shifting, and so as I'm learning, A, you can't skim through this. B, it became more confusing, but C, it became more intriguing. And with all the time and thought I was putting into it, it finally dawned on me that it might just be cheaper, to go through the session and pay her the money.
Even though you might be embarrassed for the rest of your life, you were hungry enough at that point.
I just had to do it. So I called her up, I made my appointments, there were 2 different sessions, I went down, I gave her the money, she placed me in a massage table, she took her fingers, she put on the new age tinkle music and dim lights and started going like this over my face and my body and tracing these lines, and I'm lying there with my eyes closed going, I cannot believe that I paid this woman $333 to draw lines in my body, and so my mind's going on and on. I finally thought, well, let me be open to whatever this might bring. So I lie there in perfect open state, and at the end of the session, I realized that I had experienced absolutely nothing. Nothing, but I was the only one in the room who knew this, because she stood me up as if the earth had moved. You know, stand up, get back into your body, ground yourself, walk around, the whole thing. And I'm thinking, lady, I don't know what you think went on here.
I don't know why you would think
I know,
can't.
But I missed it, you know. So I'm trying to keep a straight face, and I let her finish, and I went home. The rest of the day seemed very normal. I took all my cats and dogs in and upstairs and locked up the house and went to sleep. And an hour later, this bright light comes bursting through my eyes.
Wow.
Now, I'm asleep, so I don't have time to really, like, you know, correlate all of the concepts here.
You just,
I
boom.
just know there's this light,
Right,
you know.
right.
So I open my eyes, and it's nothing seemingly spiritual. It's just the lamp next to my bed had turned itself on. Although I'd had it for 10 years, it had not
never done
selected
that before.
any
Right.
other propitious occasion to
Right,
turn itself
right,
on.
except the night
But
of
there
this
it was.
reading.
So I'm thinking, well, you know, it's a short. It's some kind of an electrical short, or electrical something. Whatever
Right.
electrical things could happen, this had to be one of them.
Right.
But what was inexplicably weird was that I knew that someone was in my home and that I had been being watched.
Wow.
And I cannot explain what that feels like. If you haven't experienced it, there's
Right.
no way to convey this.
Right.
So I got up very bravely with my knife, a can of pepper spray, and my Doberman pinscher, and went looking through the house. And after about 25 minutes, I realized several things. One was that there was someone there. Another was that I would never find them.
Yeah, it wasn't on this plane, so what
I wasn't thinking that clearly. I mean, this
Right.
wasn't my, you know,
Right. It
up
wasn't
until
you-
this
right.
point, I was, I was raised in a fairly straight fashion. You know,
Right.
I went to the pediatrician. I had my tonsils out at 5.
Right.
I became a doctor. I went through school. You know, I
Right.
lived a relatively straight life in that thought process. So all I was thinking was, I know someone's here, and I know I can't find them. I know I have to go to work in the morning. Now, why I didn't leave the house, I have no understanding.
Right.
I remember going back to sleep and thinking, well, if they let me wake up in the morning, they do, I have to go to bed. And I went to click the light off. And you know that little round thing that lights click on and click off? Right, okay. I went to click it off, and it wasn't clicked on. It was just rotated enough for the light to hit, you know? So I'm thinking, that's pretty odd. I noted it. I went to sleep. I woke up. Friday seemed normal. Saturday was normal. Sunday I went back for my second session. She put me on the table. She started with the lines in my body again and the New Age music and the whole thing. But I couldn't lie still this time. As I'm lying there, my body's starting to shake and tremble. And what I wanted to do was stand up and just shake all this off. But I didn't dare move. Why? Because I paid her my $333. That's it.
You're going to get your money's worth
So
no matter what the money's worth is.
So I locked my arms around the edge of the table. I remember holding myself still, you know, and letting her finish. Please, finish. And she
So
does,
at least the
you know.
333 is
That's it.
done. I
I
paid it.
paid
I'm
her.
out.
I
I'm
won.
out of here. Right.
So the session is over, and it's, mind you, it's a really oppressively hot August day. I mean, it's hot, and she's in a little one-bedroom, unair-conditioned apartment. The windows are open. We should only have a little breeze. I am so cold, she had to wrap me in a blanket for 5 minutes.
Wow.
I remember leaving. I remember getting in my car.
But again, you had no specific experience where you would say, wow, this
No,
happened.
I
saw a
remember
light.
I was shaking, I was cold.
Shaking and
That was
cold,
all I
that
know.
was it.
I know when it finished, I experienced a calm I had never in my life had.
And it wasn't
and-
just, thank God it's over.
Oh, no. And simultaneously...
So I've had a few.
I have too, but we'll talk about that after the show.
Right. I hope it's not this show. He goes, thank God it's over.
No.
How soon after the show are you going to talk about
No, but I'll tell you a couple other show experiences later too. I just know that I knew this calm from somewhere other than this
Right.
lifetime. I got into my car, I remember it drifting home.
It felt really at home and it felt really good, right?
Yes, and at the same time I didn't know it.
Right, because it was unfamiliar to you.
Right.
Right, because you've
And
been in
familiar.
college. And,
Right.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
God, yes.
Right,
Don't
okay,
do
go ahead.
that one.
Right.
So the
I
car
went to
started...
law school, so.
All right, yeah. So we'll talk.
Right.
So I'm drifting home in the car, and all of a sudden I just don't remember anything else. I don't remember the rest of the day. I don't remember going to sleep. I don't remember waking up the next day. I remember coming to, and I was in my office.
Really? So it wasn't that you just remembered like 3 days ago?
No.
It wasn't
no,
like
no.
6 years?
No.
It was only like 3 days?
Yeah, it was only a little bit.
Okay.
So my employees are going, what happened to you? You look different. You sound different.
Wow.
I didn't want to
You're
say
nice.
I'm nice. No, I wasn't that changed.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, I don't need an audience here. So anyway.
I guess there are a lot of people who know Eric here, so they're laughing. I think I might have hit it that time.
So people are saying, what happened? You look different, you sound different. I didn't want to say, well, I pay this Venice Beach gypsy $333 to draw lines on my fingers, on my body. Why do you ask?
I don't remember for the last 3 days where I was. Right. Well,
So,
now
you know,
you're saying it on national television
Really,
and on
really.
the internet, so it's out now.
And I was going to say
the
some
story's
things are,
out now.
some things are better left unaddressed, but I killed that one, didn't I?
Right? No, not anymore. You've addressed it.
So I go into work on a patient, and I would adjust the patient, and then out of habit I would say, just leave your eyes closed for about 30 to 60 seconds to let the
And you're
adjustment
fussing
set.
around with papers or something, and they're going, Doctor, you still touching me?
No, it wasn't quite that way yet. But you know, if you don't tell them to relax, they jump up, they go, hi, bye doc, see you next week, you know.
I
So I'm
paid,
going,
I got my
just let it set. I paid my $333 a year. We are not going to get far in this program, I can tell. No.
The show's over. It's time for
What was
Marilyn
that
again.
show about that I was watching with Alan today? I don't know, something about
They seem to be having a good
$333.
time,
But we missed
what the
it.
hell did he do? No one knows what the hell he did. And isn't that normal? You should,
There's not enough makeup to cover the red in my face right now.
and I look dead. How do you
I
figure that?
like that, I know.
How come I look like Lazarus? All right, good.
So anyway-
They do it every show. I don't understand it.
The first patient opens his eyes and said, who came into the room with us? And I said, no one. Why? He said, no, I mean, who had walked into the room when you were working on me? And I said, nobody. He said, no, I mean the person who came in. I said, no one came. I mean, it's an 8 by 8. How can you miss it?
He asked me the same question.
3 times. How many times do I answer? So he said, all right, fine. I went in. I worked on the next patient. When she opened her eyes, she said, who came in the room with us? I'm going, no one. Why? Well, 7 different patients that day are insisting that at least one, if not more than one person had walked into the adjusting room while they were lying there with their eyes closed, stood there, walked around them, ran around them, and 2 of them actually looked me straight in the eye and said it felt as if someone was flying around the adjusting table in the room.
Wow. Did any of them open their eyes and see anything, or they all kept their eyes closed? It was
not
just
at
a
that
sense.
point.
Right, so it was like a sense that they sensed somebody besides you.
Yeah,
Okay.
no one said that they saw it.
Okay.
And I didn't really have the presence of mind to start to ask that kind of a question yet, because this was all the very
Right, all
first
new,
day.
Right.
So, and other patients in between this are saying to me, I can feel your hands. I'm saying, what do you mean you can feel my hands? You know, and they said, no,
I'm
before
over
you
here at the desk.
before you touch me, I can feel your hands. I'm going, sure, close your eyes. So they closed their eyes, and then I'd hold my hands, and they'd say, you know, right shoulder, left ankle. I mean, they knew. So
Oh,
this,
you would just hold it above.
well, they
the
were
area.
feeling, I wasn't thinking to hold it above yet. I was like, maybe I'd place them on the table, and I'm kind of just looking at them, and they're going, gee, I can feel your hands.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started, it became a game is what it became. It was kind of fun, you know,
Right.
and I'd say, all right, you know, when I play with a few patients I knew, and then one patient had a problem that didn't seem to want to resolve. So I thought, well, you know, just kind of like, you know, let me hold my hand out there and work with it for a little bit. And do you feel anything? They said, yeah, and then I'd let go, and the pain went away. Well, all right, I had heard about people who do that type of thing before. We all have, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe I've got a little something to play with. And finally, I got brave, and I did it with a patient who I didn't know. Well, I didn't really get brave. Here's what happened. Instead of telling them to close their eyes for 30 to 60 seconds, I started saying, after the adjustment, now close your eyes and just leave them closed until I tell you. And when they weren't looking, I'd go to the area that was bothering them. So this woman had come in, she had had...
Was this after you did all the regular chiropractic adjustments and
yeah,
cracked
after
and-
everything else was
Okay,
done.
Yeah.
This was just, to me, like a little something
To
extra.
see what, yeah, to experiment with.
Right, because
Okay.
this had started, this was back in Los Angeles, August of 1993 is when it started. So this woman had come in with a bone disease from childhood of her knee. It was called an osteochondrosis, and there are a whole different varying kinds, and hers was of her right knee. And after the adjustment and such, I had her close her eyes, and I held my hand over her knee. I remember moving it in a circular motion, and I recall my hand becoming a little uncharacteristically warm. That's
You
all I
felt
remember.
that?
I felt that. I
Right.
felt that.
Right.
Anyway, I stopped after a few minutes because I knew I didn't want her to, you know, lose consciousness and open her eyes and peek at me and catch me waving my hands there looking like an idiot, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I had a practice and some form of reputation to uphold,
Right.
questionable as that may have been.
Right.
So I finished, and she said she felt better, and I was sort of used to that by this point.
Right.
I walked her out front. The woman at my front desk almost fell off her chair, pointing. She said, "Look at your hand." And I looked, and my palm had become covered with tiny little millimeter-sized blisters. There were
Both hands?
no.
Just one,
just
the
my
one
left
hand that you were putting over her, or?
All right, I can't tell you.
But just
I don't
one hand.
remember if I had one hand
Right.
or both hands,
Right.
but it was my left hand that became covered with blisters. And as I said, 70, 140. There was a slew of them, I don't know how many.
Right.
Now blisters last, give or take, what, 5, 6, 7 days. These were gone in less than 3 hours.
Wow.
So that happened a couple times. Then another time, and this is a really good idea for anyone out in TV land who wants to change the channel, my palm bled. My palm, I don't mean it bled like a stigmata. I mean it bled as if you took a small pin and stuck your palm. That little bit of blood that kind of comes out, but it's not really enough to go anywhere.
Right.
So I'm not sure what it is.
In both palms?
No, again, just in my left
palm.
palm. Just in my left palm.
So you're half it, you're a stig.
I'm a stig. Yeah, what's the matter?
Right. Exactly. Why you only a stig, right?
So I remember staring at my hand, and someone else looks in the room and screams, it's an initiation, and I'm going, into what? Into what?
Right. Because you really had no like training and spiritual things where that's, you know, part of a lot of things. So you just came out of it from like a straight world, and all these things are happening
Boom,
to
it's
you.
starting to happen. So I'm calling this woman back who did this work to me. I'm saying, what's
What the
going
hell's
on?
going-
This is happening. That's,
Right.
And she's giving me all these, you know, little new age platitudes, but she's not answering my questions. What is happening and why? You know, maybe it's this, it could be that. She's nothing. Well, by the time the blistering and the bleeding occurred, I then worked on someone who had a very advanced case of HIV to the point where the skin was crinkly gray, and he was having to walk with an IV on wheels for morphine for the pain. And a complication of the HIV was cytomegalovirus. It had gone into affected the vision and blurred one of the eyes completely over. So we had vision out of one eye, the other eye was blurred. And I met him at a dinner party where the host asked if I'd work on him for a few minutes, and I did. And his pain went away and his vision cleared up. But the next morning, I woke up and my eye, it was my opposite eye. It was always the opposite side of my body. I don't know why. So maybe I did work over her with my right hand. I don't know. Swelled up about 3 or 4 times its size. And that happened, lasted for about 36 hours. Now I have to tell you, I didn't mind the bleeding and the blistering.
Right, an eye swelling up.
Well,
for 30.
quite honestly, the bleeding and the blistering, I enjoyed the drama. You know,
Right.
look, you know, I can
Right.
demonstrate. See what happened? I liked that.
Right.
The swelling of my eye frightened me a little bit. Actually, because I was concerned, I didn't want to be taking on something that wasn't mine, and or maybe it having it be in my body for too long, or maybe leaving residuals. I just didn't like that concept. And somehow it came to me that maybe I didn't have to take on someone else. I didn't have to physically manifest something they had for them to have a healing. And it was almost as if by grace.
Just as soon as you
it
thought
didn't happen.
it,
As soon as I thought it,
wow.
it never
Happened
happened
again.
again.
Wow.
Now, it does happen sometimes, very rarely, when I teach seminars in this. Once in a while, it will happen to someone, but almost never. And I think it's because I explain in a lot of detail part of this story that I'm going on with you about when I'm giving the seminars, and there's a transmission not just of this frequency, but of a communication and an understanding where people are then able to carry this frequency and work with it, and they almost never
becomes
blister.
theirs.
And
Right.
it becomes theirs at the level I am.
Right.
If I taught this 2 years ago, they got it at that level,
Right,
and they would evolve to here. But if I teach it today, you get it at the level where I am now, and it continues. But I'll tell you,
Why
sure.
don't we come back to this, because let's do the second set with Marilyn, then we'll come
Okay,
back
wonderful.
and do that. So Marilyn's going to do the second set. She's going to do 2 songs, Now and Forever, written by Mary Eberspacher and performed by Marilyn, and then Prayer for All the People, written by Eric Sweary, and Marilyn's going to perform that too. So just settle in. These are two unbelievable songs. I think both of these are going to be on her next album. And also, before I forget, if anybody wants any information on Eric, his practice, workshops, website, Marilyn's CDs, where she's going to be performing, call me, Alan, 805-687-2053. Also, you can check out our website, www.heaventoearth.com. Both Eric and Marilyn are linked from our site. So whenever we're ready, Marilyn, please. Thank you.
I'm standing in the moonlight, gazing in the stars. I'm here to feel the power of who and what we are. Here to know the wonder of the love within us all, to feel, to know. From this moment on, I will be forever I will be forever one with the stars, the rivers flowing deeply, and the earth beneath my feet. Now and forever. Now and forever. Now and forever. I am one with you. Here's a prayer for all people, anywhere people care for people. There'll be a prayer for the people, and this prayer is for all people, all the different kinds, all people who need the love of people. 'Cause children are hungry, children are crying, the old ones are lonely, the old ones are dying, with nobody there when they call. And Lord, when we cry out and everyone cries out, please give us the strength to keep living our lives out, and give us the courage to care for your people. That all people can live in this world with all other people in peace, united in truth and honor. 'Cause children are hungry, children are crying, the old ones are lonely, the old ones are dying, with nobody there when they call. And Lord, when we cry out and everyone cries out, please give us the strength to keep living our lives out, and give us the courage to care for your people. Please grant what we ask in this prayer for all people, all people, for all people.
Hi, welcome, Marilyn. That was fantastic. I don't know if you folks at home just could hear how incredibly beautiful it sounded. I hope it sounded as beautiful to you as it did to us, but in the studio it was just really fantastic. So thanks for coming again, Marilyn. So we're back on the set with Eric. So So these things were starting to happen to you, and then people heard about this, and there started to be like research projects about it, like what was going on. Why don't you talk about that a little?
People started to hear about it. I started being invited. First, what would happen is I started getting phone calls from patients, doctors, saying, "What did you do to my patients? Here's lab results about before they saw you and after. What's going on?"
And these were some really, really terminal type illnesses, like AIDS and
cancer tumors started disappearing. People started getting up out of wheelchairs. All the things that sound like they happen in a bad movie, and not everyone. And sometimes not even half of them, but some of them.
Wow.
But some of them.
Wow.
And people, and doctors saying, "What did you do?" And I'm going, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know.
Right. But you were feeling that your hands were hot.
I could feel, well, at that story I told you they were hot. Sometimes they're cold. Sometimes I feel pressure.
No telling.
Sometimes it pulls. Sometimes it pushes. Sometimes it's wet. So I don't know, but I feel something.
Right.
I feel density changes in the air. And I don't know what's happening. I started getting invitations from important people. Andrew Weill invited me out to speak at the University of Arizona. Dr. C. Norman Shealy has invited me out to do research programs there. As a matter of fact, University of Arizona, some of the research people had a preliminary meeting with me, which turned into drinks afterwards. So we're sitting around talking, having drinks. I'm going, "Well, sure, you can feel this if you want. Give me your hand," and I let them feel it. And they never actually attended one of my seminars, so they never heard the story I told you about the blistering and the bleeding, and that once you realize you don't have to, it doesn't occur.
Right.
And the main researcher blistered his hand in the inside of his mouth the next morning.
Wow.
But, and then it didn't, because I think the blistering has something to do with accommodating this. If it happens at all. I mean, it rarely happens, but if it does, it just happens once. This is not Reiki, it's not Jure, it's not Qigong, it's not Jinshen, it's not an old, lost Vedic technique. This is a new frequency on the planet right now. I mean, we've researched it through gamma radiation, through random event generators, through all these things I've never heard of in varying studies around the country. It's a new frequency, and what we believe that it is a new frequency because of the way that time is now moving differently. I mean, of course, it's all been talked about and prophesied in the Hopis and the Nostradamus, and all the people would talk about these things.
Right.
And most of us are feeling it, and clearly now we've become more aware that many of us are electing to leave the planet at this time.
Right.
And others of us have chosen to remain here and assist in this transition. This
transition from, as they call it, darkness to light.
You could say that.
Or into higher frequencies, into more love.
I feel it's into higher frequencies and more love. And therefore, because we're into this new frequency of healing that seems to be coming through is more expansive and appropriate for this time. Reiki, Jure, Qigong, they all work still. And they would fill the capacity we were given at the time they came into the planet. Mm-hmm. But now there's still this, and we're here. And this is a new frequency. And somehow, because people were pushing me for a couple of years when they started to teach seminars, and I said, you can't teach healing. And I still say that. You cannot teach healing. I don't care who has what book, Hands of this and Joy of that and blah, 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 blah. I don't know what they're doing. Well, I do know. I've read them. They're telling you where to stand, where to hold your hands, and what to think. Right. That's not healing. So I said you couldn't do it until I started realizing that more and more and more people who had private sessions with me would come back and say, I got home, my television, my stereo, my computer started turning itself on and off and on and off and on and off. I felt things coming through my hands. I held my hands near my mother, my sister, my cousin, my friend. They healed from this, from that, from the other. And I came to the understanding that somehow or other they were being, choose your word, ignited, attuned, and trained with this frequency.
It's like rubbing up against a magnet. In a way, you're a magnet. Right. You rub up against enough, you become a magnet.
Right. Yeah. And so now, I'll have people who are masters in different techniques come in and say, well, this is different. And they can't, even once they learn to carry this, they
There's
can't
no
find their
tradition
own
to it.
technique any longer.
It doesn't have a tradition.
This
It's
has
just like
no technique
right,
and no
technique
tradition.
No lineage. It's just
no
there.
lineage.
Right.
You're not doing
and people
anything.
have a trouble with that.
They have a big problem with
Yeah,
it because
I know,
they think you should
we
do
see
something.
It on the show. Yeah,
they
has
think
to,
you have to have symbols,
Exactly.
or you have
Right.
to protect yourself, or you have to do this. Or,
Right.
No, you just be. And
Right.
it's not about sending healing.
Right.
It's about receiving and being. And
If you're
all of a
vibrating
sudden,
at that thing, at that
God,
rate.
that's exactly what I tell people. You know, no one gets this.
Right.
They all, you know, one of the biggest things I try
that's
to
what they
teach
say
people.
about dolphins. I mean, they're vibrating at such a rate that you're around a dolphin and you change. And the same thing, you're like a dolphin in flesh, as they say. No, I mean, actually, somebody said that about me the other day. That's what they thought. So,
I
mean,
have
really,
a few other
yeah.
things to say about you later.
No, I know. Everybody.
Anyway.
And other people say that too. We'll get around to all those.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I'll tell you one of the biggest things that I've got to get across, the two main things that I get across to people when they attend seminars is, one,
it costs $330.
No.
No. Because that's the figure you lost.
It's not what you're going to learn, it's what you're going to let go of. And two, the biggest problem that we have in being healers are these things that look like love rituals that we don't understand, that each one of them reinforces a concept of fear and evil in us, and there's no such thing.
Right.
There is no such thing. Bowls of salt water, you're supposed to shake off negativity, have flowers, you shouldn't have ghosts, say this prayer, call in Mother, Father, God, call in the archangels, for God's sakes, they're with you.
Right.
You know who you know as God, love, creator,
Well,
source,
we talk
pick
about that
your
a
word.
lot. You know, we
Right.
feel in all the separation, which is where fear
That's
comes from.
what it is. It's
and
separation.
the oneness, there is no...
Is where the
right,
healing
right,
is.
Exactly.
But if you speak to most people, first, what are the first two things they tell you? All right, take off your metals and take off your leather. Tell me.
Right.
There's some all-powerful being sitting up in a cloud going, I'd really like Alan to have a healing, but that watch
No, that's
can't
not
do
gonna
it.
right. I love him immensely, but as long as he's wearing a watch.
I
right.
can't heal him.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, it's completely ludicrous.
It's right.
But you know, you're right. But it's like on what level? At a certain level, it makes sense. But you get above that level, you're looking at the maze from higher up, and then it's obviously idiotic.
Precisely.
So you know, it always depends on, you know, like Jesus used to talk about, look at it from God's point of view. And if you look at it from God's point of view, then healing is what healing is.
Healing, yes.
Right. Right.
So, so essentially, the studies have been going on in different hospitals around the country: Jackson Memorial Hospital, University of Miami, the VA hospital.
I mean, do they hook you up? And you like one
Sometimes.
Of those, you know, it's like,
There are two different kind of studies that people do. One are clinical.
Right.
All right, so they'll have me working with cerebral palsy children because they respond very beautifully. With people with sclerotic diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, intestinal, and virtually anything. You know, a lot of the studies started because of the results we were seeing at the Miami Project for the Cure for Paralysis. Quadriplegics and paraplegics regaining the use of their arms and legs. Now there's a different kind of study, and I don't know what to call it, and that's the one you referenced. And this is happening through Norman Shealy and through the University of Arizona. And that is where they are actually measuring the change in what's emanating from me in a normal state, and then in that state where I just allow this healing frequency to come through. But what's
now,
real?
now, do you have to allow it to come through, or are you?
All I really have to do is put my attention on it. All anyone who has to do, once they've felt it, it's almost as if once this has been put into someone or they've attuned it, all of a sudden you find it and you recognize it. You know, even though it wasn't there before, but then it is here now, and then just the fact that your attention is on it is there. But the most exciting study that's been done, to me, the most exciting study that's been done, is at U of A, University of Arizona, where what they've done was they've pre-tested people who had not interacted with me. Then they allowed them to go through a weekend seminar and training. And then they retested
and what, how do
the
they
energies
test
coming off
the
of them.
energies, and
Well,
they can test that. What kind of?
First, what we were doing was using gamma radiation detectors. So they would measure the degree of gamma radiation in a room by itself, and then in a room with a facilitator and with a person in a neutral state, also in the room with me in a neutral state without them, and then me with them, and then me when I turn this on. I say turn it on when I put my attention on it. And they would measure the person going into what they felt was the state that they would be in if they were doing healings before they interacted with me and after. And that's how they got the difference in measurements.
And more gamma rays means something, or just the change in gamma rays?
Well, there needs to be a significant change, and it needs to be consistent.
And more gamma rays would be more harmonious, or, I mean, so what?
All right, generally speaking, every time you brought someone or something into a room, it would increase the level of gamma radiation. Yet when I would go into a given state, the radiation would consistently decrease by a clinically significant number.
And what was their sense? Why is that good?
We don't know why. These studies are called, you have to learn a new language to do this stuff. And here's the word for everyone, put it up on the board. Iterative, I-T-E-R-A-T-I-V-E, iterative studies. That means that because we don't know what we're dealing with yet, we know that there's a result, we know that there's a process, we know it's there and it needs to be done.
So, it
evolves as we're doing it,
like
and we may make a shift.
From the bottom.
So, right. Well, not exactly.
No, not in your case.
No, of course not.
No.
Or in yours.
No,
right? No,
definitely not.
But for other people, they could do
Who
this.
might think it.
And we don't know any of them.
I've just heard about it. Right?
So they're bringing me back to do the next step with it and what we're studying, but they're using something else called a random event generator. Now this is really fascinating because it prints out, well, it's not really fascinating on TV, so I'll do it fast, but it prints out this something that looks like a bullet shape, a parabola, which without a back, and there's a main line running through it. And normal randomness falls close to that line, and unusual randomness falls a little above or a little below. But when it gets outside of that parabola, that is totally unpredictable and abnormal. So what would happen is, consistently it would jump out of the parabola and then move in an organized fashion. So in English, what that meant is somehow things were being organized in a place that they never were when I'm in that state.
Taking chaos and bringing harmony to it, in a sense. Like, you know, they have the things with the tuning fork and it makes a mandala or something like that.
But here's the gift. It's not me.
No, I understand.
Okay, so people come out and fly out from all over the world to see me. I mean, there are the hotels in Los Angeles, a lot of them will give you a discount. I'm coming to see Dr. Pearl. Oh, well, here's our Dr. Pearl room, right? I mean, you know.
Right.
So,
you're like the Ramada Inn's best.
I am. I'm next to the Ramada Inn, and they. So anyway, don't go there. So listen. So what's happening is now I'm able to say, no, I didn't, because they want it.
Okay.
And so I say, don't come. You don't need to see me now. These are the people in your city, and we're keeping an international directory. I'm booked into the third quarter of the year 2000, touring New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and right now the Learning Annex has taken over a lot of the seminars on the coasts. I can't even keep up on my website where I'm going on any longer. I mean, people have to call my office. I can't keep it on the website. I gave it to my poor sister. I said, you've got to keep up this calendar. I can't, my person at the office can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just find that it's just becoming more and more exciting to be out there and sharing this love and this vibration, because when you're feeling it and you're in this presence, I mean, it feels like love to you in a sense. It feels like...
It does, but not the way we think of love.
No, I understand. Like peace, in a way. Yeah, go ahead. You describe it. I've described it for 89 shows, and you're kind of about a minute left.
It's really difficult, so here's how I'm going to do it. I'll tell you this in a brief story. When healers started coming to me and interacting with me, people who were like big healers and into studied stuff, they'd say, sometimes a lot of antagonism would come out, and they'd say, you know, you're not doing this correctly. We spent our whole lives learning to love and feel pain and emotion, and you're just you're not using your heart. You're being mechanical. And I used to go, oh my God, what's wrong with my heart? Until I realized the love that we're talking about is not Hallmark card love.
Emotional.
It's the fact that you can stand somewhere and be 100% for that person and be clear enough to be the observer and the observed, and in the process and let go. And once you've experienced it, you know it. But until you do, you spend all your time thinking you need to feel someone's pain. It's not about pain.
No, it's really not.
It's about
love. So again, the show is over before we even get started. We'll have to have Eric back, because I think there are going to be a lot more stories coming up with that. So again, if you want any information, Marilyn, Eric, 805-687-2053. We're getting on in more and more cities. I really want to thank everybody who's helped in all the different cities, Boston, Atlanta, Prescott, Arizona. We're on 3 times a week in Denver. So just continue that love. Your inspiration and your calls are extremely important to us. You don't know how important it is for us to be having that experience of you coming in to call us and see us. So thank you. Good night. God bless you. Come again. Good night.